the personality and character ethics. At the same time, in addition to my research on perception, I was also deeply immersed in an deep study of the success literature published in the United States since 1776. I was reading or scanning literally hundreds of books, articles, and essays in fields such as self-improvement, popular psychology, and self-help. At my fingertips was the sum and substance of what a free and domestic people considered to be the keys to successful living. As my study took me back through 200 years of writing about success, I noticed a starting pattern emerging in the content of the literature because of our own pain and because of similar pain I had seen in the lives and relationship of many people I had worked with those the years. I began to feel more and more that much of the success literature of the past 50 years was superficial. It was filled with social image, consciousness, techniques, and quick fixes, with social band-aids and experience that address actual problems and sometimes even appear to solve them temporarily, but leave the underlying chronic problem untouched to fester and resurface time again. In stark contrast, almost all the literature in the first 150 years or so focus on what could be called the character ethic as the foundation of success. Things like integrity, humility, fidelity, temperature, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity, modesty, and the golden rule. Benjamin Franklin autography is a representative of that literature. It is basically the story of one man's effort to integrate certain principles and habits deep within his nature. The character ethics taught that there are basic principles of effective living and the people can experience true success and enduring happiness as they learn and integrate three principles into their basic character. But shortly after World War, the basic view of success shifted from the character ethics to what we might call the personality ethics. Success became more function of personality, of public image, of attitude and behaviors, skills and techniques. That image of attitude, the process of human interaction. This personality ethics essentially took two paths. One was human and public relations techniques, and other was positive mental attitude. Some of the philosophy was expressed in inspiring and sometimes valid maxims such as your attitude determines your attitude. Smiling wins more friends. They are frowning, and whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. Other part of the personality approach were clearly manipulative, even deceptive, encouraging people to use technique to get other people to like them or to fake interest in the hobbies of others to get out of them what they wanted or to use the power of looks or to intimate their ways those lives. Some of this literature acknowledge character as an integrant of success, but tended to compartmentalize it rather than recognize of success. It has foundational and catalyze. Reference to the character ethic become mostly lip service. The basic thrust was quickly fixed influence technique, power strategy, communication skill, and positive attitude. This personality ethic, I began to realize, was the subconscious source of the solutions Sandra and were attending to use with our son, as though we deeply about the difference between the personality and character ethic. I realized that Sandra and I had been getting a social mileage out of our children's good behavior, and in our eyes, this cell simply did not measure up. Our image of ourselves and our role as good, caring parents was even deeper than our image of our son, and perhaps influenced it. There was a lot of more wrapped up in the way we were seeing handling the problems than our concern for our son's welfare. As Sandra I talked, we became painful aware of the powerful influence of our own character and motives and of our perception of him. We knew that social comparison motivates were out of harmony with our deeper values and could lead be conditional love and eventually to our son lesson sense of self-worth. So we determined to focus our effort on us, not on our techniques, but on our deepest motives and our perception of him. Instead of trying to change him, we tried to stand apart too. If you don't pay the price day and day out, or never achieve true mystery of the subjects you study or develop in educated mind. Did you ever consider how ridiculous it would be to try to cram on a farm, to forget to plant in the spring, play all summer, and they cram in the fall to bring in the harvest? The farm is a natural system. The price must be paid and the process followed. You always reap what you sow. There is no shortcut. This principle is true. Ultimately, in a human behavior, in human relationship, they are natural system based on the law of harvest. In the short run, in an artificial social system such as school, you may be able to get by if you learn how to manipulate the man-made rules to play the games in must of one shot or short-lived human interaction. We can use personality ethic to get by and to make favorable impression through charm and skill predicting to be interpreted in other people hobbies, and you can pick up a quick easy technique that may work in a short-term situation, but secondary trends alone have no permanent worth in a long-term relationships. Even if there is not deep integrity and fundamental character strength, that lens of life will cause the true motives to surface, and human relationships failure will replace short-term success. Many people with secondary greatness, that is social recognition for their talents, lack memory greatness or goodness in their character. Sooner or later, you will see this is every long-term relationship they have, whether it is with a message of associate, a spouse, a friend or teenage child going through an identify crisis. It is a character that communicates much equivalently, has a immersion. Once put it, what you are shout so loudly in my eyes, I can't hear what you say. There are of course situations where people have character, strength, but their lack of communication and unproudly affect the quality of relationship as well. But the effects are still secondary. In the last analysis, what we are communicates far more equivalently than anything we say or do. We all know it. There are people we trust obviously because we know their character, whether they are eloquent or not, whether they have human relations techniques or not. We trust them and we work successfully with them. In the words of William Gill Jordan, into the hands of every individual is a given marvelous power for good or evil. The silent, unconscious, unseen influence of his life. This is simply the constant radiation of what man really is not what he pretend to be. Okay, thank you.